as well as changes in terms of tax as well, so which have been announced around VAT, etc. So in terms of some of the key things so it's just to put that in context, Adam, maybe for everybody that I'd be interested just to hear views on the existing schemes and the measures that are there, and then also in terms of ideas maybe that are around the table in relation to the forthcoming National Economic Plan, etc. I suppose there's some immediate things which I know Neil has put out, and Adam, you've been putting out in terms of newsletters, etc., in terms of what businesses should be doing. I suppose first of all is to get up to speed on the various measures, and we can come to some of those questions. I see something that's come through there. But the second piece is obviously to apply for the Restart grant, apply for the rates waiver, the online trading vouchers, which are available from the local enterprise offices, and then assess the funding needs. The credit guarantee scheme will be coming online at the end of the month, as the government has announced, together with MFI, step up in funding, etc. So, and again, there are supports if people need them in terms of working with accountants or working with financial advisors. There's a whole series of measures which are there, and training and skills and apprenticeships, which would fit very much into your own area, obviously, Adam, and very much I think we'd like to put a particular focus on those, particularly around the apprenticeship incentivisation scheme and the availability of a €2,000 payment to support employers to take on new apprentices. We've also announced additional support for taking on resources to help people prepare for Brexit, and that's a particular support which will be 6,000 recruitment grant for taking on additional resources. And again, just to put that up front, so that people, when they're thinking about measures and planning for the next couple of months, and resources and people to put those into your planning. The range of obviously tax measures, and some of those maybe other panelists want to talk about those in terms of the in terms of carry forward trading losses, also in terms of tax relief for self-employed, and then the VAT.
I still hear nothing now.
And then there are a range of obviously government investment supports as well in terms of the increased investment in the schools and in travel and in heritage and other areas. So there's 500 million of additional investment which has been rolled out over the coming weeks and months. So maybe with that, I'll hand back to you, Adam.
Thanks, Declan. That's good to hear the updates from your end. It's probably just a good opportunity for me just to say who you are, Declan, just in case people have just joined us. That your division is the Indigenous Enterprise Division, which is obviously everything SME. So as the Assistant Secretary, I believe, is that your title? I believe it is.
That's right, Assistant Secretary. I head up the Indigenous Enterprise, SME and Entrepreneurship Division. So look after the enterprise policy, and then also the local enterprise offices and Enterprise Ireland. And then we're also working on a team working on the range of liquidity supports and measures which are in place. And we have a team who are rolling out, which was launched this week, the Restart grant and the renewed Restart grant. So, so hopefully I can cover a number of the issues set out.
Yeah, the questions, Declan, that we will be covering. The Restart grant has been so from you should have received the questions there. I'll be reading them out anyway, Declan, and anyone that you feel that you're qualified to answer, please jump in.
Okay, yeah.
So what we're doing is we're starting with the supports and grants, then we're moving into the Restart grant, and then wage supports. Okay, that seems to be the ones that that harness the most interest from people that want answers from. So, and Eilish and Jamie will jump in as well. So I'm getting a few questions in the chat. Some people had audio issues. I am recording this, and we will make this recording available to you all, so you'll be able to recap any points that you missed. Okay. So perhaps we can start with the questions if everyone's ready. For those who are not speaking, if you could just pop yourselves onto mute there, bottom left. If you move your cursor, the toolbar will pop up, and you'll see mute, your microphone icon at the bottom left. Just click that to mute. We will open up the floor to a Q&A at the end briefly, for anything that hasn't been covered. And we're going to try and keep within the timeline, as I know some of you are under time pressure. So if we could kick off with the financial supports, under the title of supports and grants, the first question we have is what supports are available for A, SMEs in the service industry with 17 employees, or B, a carpenter with no employees?
Okay, well, I think the first thing, hopefully, I'm not sure what that service business is, but the first thing that they should be doing, or what I was advising to do, is to look at the Restart grant. So are they already in business? If they have a rateable premises, whether that's a storehouse or it is a retail premises or it's some other, let's say, an office, etc., they would be eligible for their Restart grant. And that's up to 25,000. So depending on the location and depending on the activity, but they should certainly engage with their local authority directly on that. It is a simple one-page. Sorry, I think we come to the Restart grant later on, so we won't go into the detail. But it is, to answer question 2 as well, in terms of easy to get, it is intended to be a single one-page application. So in the previous scheme with the launch, I think we nearly had 45,000 applicants in space of about 5 or 6 weeks, and most of those were in the first 2 weeks. I think there were nearly 20,000 applicants. So people applied, and there was a quick turnaround, except that in some cases there was some local authorities took a little bit longer than others, but in general they were trying to get them through within a week. So that's the first one that's readily available. I think the other one is the rates waiver, which is now a 6 months rates waiver for anybody who's in business, even the carpenter, in terms of with maybe no employees, but may have a warehouse or may have a storage or other area. There were also we have had in terms of they would also benefit from the wage subsidy scheme. Which is a direct grant every week. I know many businesses probably on the call have been getting that. So somebody with 15 to 20,000, or with 15 to 20 employees, might have been getting 6 to 8,000 a week to help with their wage bills if they were impacted by the amount, 25%. Obviously, that has now been extended to April, so that will continue on a graduated basis, but that support will still be there. As you know, in the UK, the furlough scheme is being removed from October, so it is intended to support businesses over what may be a difficult trading period, and the details of that are on the Department of Finance website and be further details. So that will change from the end of August. So again, that is a direct support out to SMEs. I would say as well, I think to see there's a question later on in relation to MFI, or in terms of debt support. And again, I would say that MFI have been refinanced and getting an additional 30 million under an immediate 30 million. Obviously, with the legislation that was passed in the summer, they can get up to 100 million now in lending. But the first 20 million went very quickly, and their loans are between 25 and 50,000 and zero interest for the first 6 months. Currently, we're going to extend that out to zero interest for the first year, and there'll also be then additional supports available from the local enterprise offices who are getting an extra 10 million. I would say as well, in relation to the carpenter, there is a support which will be available through the Department of Social Protection, which is the enterprise support, which is I think 1,500, and again they are finalising the details of that, and that's for those, for example, who maybe were out of work and were on the PUP payment. So there is a range of supports. We have a website which has full details. I can circulate that afterwards, and it does go down through some of the different types of businesses and the supports that they can or should be applying for. So that's
that would be very useful,
number
Declan.
one. Yeah. And we're updating that booklet on a continuous basis. In terms of the easy to get grants, question 2, I would say, yeah, hopefully the Restart grant is intended to be very straightforward, very easy to get, and similarly with the rates waivers. Again, that has been, I know many had applied and didn't quite get it in the first instance, in the first 3 months, different local authorities, but that's now been clarified as to it's for 6 months and the terms and conditions of that. So that should give some relief in terms of financial planning, and the total cost of that for the next 6 months is 600 million. So that'll help hopefully thousands of businesses all around the country.
Okay, that's very good, Declan. Actually, there was a question, you mentioned something about rates being waived. There was a question just popped into the chat from Claire. So I did not apply yet for the Restart grant. My rates were €2,500, which is under the max for the Restart Plus grant. Can I apply now for the first grant, or is this closed? I thought that was relevant to what you were saying.
Yeah, so the first grant is closed, and on the basis that that it wasn't, there were a number of exclusions in it, and the scheme had to be revised. So it's now been, if somebody is on 2,500, that person can now apply, and they can apply for the 4,000. So they get the 4,000 straight off in terms of the Restart grant plus, and they can also still apply for the rates waiver. And I saw on some of the local authority websites that they now have that. They have clear guidance as to how to apply for that. So depending on where that the questioner is, they can engage directly with the local authority on both of those and apply for the, if their rates bill is only 2,500, they should get they will get the 4,000 straight up.
Okay. That's very good. And I think it sort of leads into what you've just said there, leads into our second question, which was, which are the easy to get grants? So the low hanging fruit from a support perspective.
Yeah, I think the, as I said, the Restart grant is intended to be that. I would say the trading on the grants from the LEOs. So we've a range of participants on the call, but the LEOs, local enterprise offices grants, are also intended to be easy to get. So we had originally got the business continuity voucher, and which was with 15,000 applicants. So while it was a simple application and there was an engagement with it, there was a sheer volume issue there. But I think most of that has been addressed. And then similarly with the trading online voucher, which again is 2,500 initially, or it's up to 5,000. You can get two of those grants. Again, they're intended to be very, very quick to get. The one thing, and I do see a question later on in relation to trading online voucher, it is something that you have to. There is a requirement to do an online seminar in advance, so that you have a clear view as to what you're going to spend the money on in terms of trading online. We've looked at it various ways, and we think that it still is it's an important prerequisite, so is that people actually, businesses or whoever is looking after it in the business, takes the time to consider good practice and how best to use the money, but the turnaround on those, as I said, it has certainly been improving, and we've allocated additional, together with the Department of Communication, additional 20 million to those online grants.
That's
we're dealing with nearly 2 or 3 years of volume in the space of a couple of months. So in some cases there have been delays. We've got additional resources from the local authorities, and we'll have additional staff going in as well over the coming months. So the key thing is get the application in, and then at least the money is coming, or the grant is on its way.
I think that's important, because
bear with us on that. Yeah.
We've heard a lot of frustration where they're saying, oh, the money has run out. So it's great that funding has been reapplied, and it's and that the way of applying has been made easier, and that more staff are coming in, so the backlog will be, hopefully the bottleneck will be unplugged or whatever. So so that's
well,
good.
just to say, with some of those schemes, Adam, like we had targets of trying to allocate 1,000 vouchers a year, and we couldn't get any traction with them. But now, in terms of with businesses closed and having to do takeaway and other services, the trading online, we've had to increase it, I think, 3 times initially from 2 million to 5 million, then to 20 million, and now up to 40 million. So over the period of the last 4 months, hopefully that continuous ratcheting up of those grants and supports is being responsive to where we see that the demand is from business. And again, that just goes back to that question in relation to, when we come to the budget time in September, what are the additional measures that are appropriate as we go into the winter period? We welcome that feedback.
Okay, super. Thanks, Declan. Yeah, I think so. As you're talking, some of the questions that we will be asking will have been covered, but I'm going to go through them chronologically anyway.
Sure, yeah.
The third question is, what supports are there for people who continued to trade during COVID but are struggling with cash flow?
So again, I go back to the, hopefully this restart grant. So for example, if you got the first restart grant, you can now apply a second time. If you were open, of course, you have to be open under Restart 1. Now you've indicated the date of when you're going to reopen. So for example, pubs that aren't currently reopening or currently open now can apply for Restart 2. So that's a further, hopefully, cash flow support. The rates waiver will help in terms of knowing that that you don't have to pay that. And then thirdly, in terms of the wage subsidy scheme, again, that should help with the variable cost in terms of people's measures or people's outgoings. The warehousing of taxes as well. I encourage businesses to engage directly with revenue. So they have the provision now for warehousing of tax liabilities. So revenue still would ask and require that you file your returns, but again, their deferment and warehousing of liabilities there would be a help to many in terms of their cash flow. And then also in terms of the new tax measures which were announced by Minister Donoghue in terms of the carry back of trading losses, should be a help to some in terms of who were profitable last year and they're negative this year, or those who are self-employed individuals like the carpenter in question 1, and maybe who was profitable in 2019, is incurring losses in 2020, and can get some tax relief there. And then, as I said, there's further questions then in relation to some of the liquidity support and the debt support, which is also then available for businesses.
Yeah, okay, that's great, Declan. I think there's the next two questions actually in relation to that. So the additional funding that you've been talking about, has it been opened up for Microfinance Ireland?
So microfinance,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, so microfinance, and then the other one. So microfinance are going through the final stages of they're hoping to have a board meeting early next week and to announce it next week in terms of the reopening of 30 million. They have been working with businesses and warehousing them working on applications. So it's not that they've been completely closed. So I think it's anybody who is looking at MFI loans or lending, they should engage either with the LEO local enterprise office, who can help them to get their application ready, and that work is continuing, or directly with MFI. I don't think there'll be too many big surprises in relation to MFI. The key thing was trying to get the additional funding for them. That required legislation. That's all in place, and also additional resources for them as well. So, as you can appreciate, in terms of they were a small operation with 13, 14 people led by Gareth Stokes, etc. But their volumes again had significantly increased, so they're getting additional staffing and additional resources as well. Again, the 1 year interest moratorium, I think, will be a help to many in terms of the repayment schedules, etc. So that will be announced hopefully next week. And then the alternative debt providers, there are many. I think I've seen them before. Many of them, Adam, maybe ISME might have a better list. We wouldn't necessarily have a list of those, but many of those would exhibit it, for example, at the ISME annual conference and that where we have supporting some of those. They are announced, for example, whether it's the strategic SBCI, so the Future Growth Loan Scheme, which is 10-year money, or others, the Credit Guarantee Scheme. We'll be doing an open call looking for all the alternative debt providers to be part of that as well. there's some interest from some of the players in that, but I think ISME probably has a list, Adam, which might be more appropriate maybe for ISME to send that out, if that's okay. On question 5.
Yeah, it's part of our support and advice page.
Adam, would you like me to come in here, because there are additional non-bank lenders?
Yeah, please do, Eilish. Yeah.
They're supporting the SBCI loans, such as Linked Finance, Grid Finance, Finance Ireland, I believe. And there are a lot of the BIBI, there are a lot of the non-bank lenders who are already in the market for specific services, are now coming under the SBCI and have cheaper finance, rather than paying 8 or 10, 12% for invoice discounting, for example. Now.
Okay, so I'm getting some sound, some audio issues this end actually. Could I just ask everyone to mute themselves if they're not talking? That would be fabulous. Did everyone get? If I can get a thumb up from people that they heard what Eilish said, please. Just a thumb up from people. I've got a mix of thumbs and up and thumbs down. Okay, Eilish, what were the 3 key points there you made? Just proceed.
That there are quite a lot now of non-bank lenders, as they're called, who are issuing out SBCIs. So
okay.
The likes of Linked Finance, Grid Finance, Finance Ireland, Pepper,
and Flender as well, I suppose.
Yeah, what you need to do is go on to sbci.gov.ie, and there's a complete list of all the lenders on that website.
Okay, that's a very useful resource. Okay, sbci.ie, guys.
.gov.
.gov. Yeah.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Eilish. Okay, thank you. Just going on to this question about the LEOs, the training online voucher grant. It's taking considerable time to secure authorization. Now, I think you covered this, Declan, but I'm going to read it anyway because it's there. But the relevant LEO staff are not available by phone while remote working, and email replies are taking longer than they should. So I think you said that you from the government has addressed that. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So it was a volume issue. Everyone listen. Apologies about that. But I see just further down, Adam, there's T's and C's that require grant authorization before supplier payment as a qualified menacing SMEs. That's one I'll certainly follow up on. I'm not sure what that. Yeah, sorry. I think what somebody may be referring to there. We had 1 or 2 cases where people had spent money, and then we're coming back in looking for the grant. And I think, as you can appreciate, that probably is reasonable financial procedures. But I think where somebody had been in the process and had to go ahead, I think the LEOs were being accommodative of that. But I think if somebody had previously spent money and then was coming back in and sort of saying, look, we've done this previously, can we get this? That's an issue. But I think the LEOs have engaged on 1 or 2 cases and have been quite accommodative. For example, somebody had an application in but had to go ahead. So again, if there's a specific case there, you can follow up. I can follow up on that. Just further detail on question 6. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Declan. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is, what plans are being put in place for low interest loans and for 10 to 12 year term with 2-year moratorium on repayments for business whose annualized turnover in 2020 will be 50% of 2019 and will probably take a further 2 years to rebuild to 2019 levels? Good question.
Yeah, so it certainly is, but certainly there's a mix of pieces in that, which is the, first of all, is the SBCI, so the Future Growth Loan Scheme was launched about 10 days ago. So again, that is one that I think will be very appropriate for many businesses who are sort of seeing this is going to take 2 or 3 years now to get back to 2019 turnover levels. And certainly having that type of financial facility in place makes sense rather than anything which might be a 3 or 5 year term. And again, the interest rate is certain and it's known, so it certainly would encourage people to look at that. I think that will be that's one which I think is particularly relevant to businesses, and that's the long-term piece. With 2-year moratorium, there is a moratorium on that, and then the repayments can be negotiated. At the moment, it is. I mean, most negotiations would be around the first year. So a 2-year moratorium, I think that would be difficult to get agreement on that. But look, it's something which we can consider further. But I can see where somebody's looking for that. But again, it's based on ability to, based on the financial plan and on the ability to repay. So I think most lenders would, given that it's a 10-year loan, and that you're looking at, for example, sectors like tourism to come back in 2022, 2023, that should be, should be part of the plan. So I think that's one part. Then the second one I would mention is the credit guarantee scheme. So that will also have moratoriums built in from the beginning, and that will be launched, as said, at the end of this month. And that it's for shorter time periods in terms of the guarantee of up to 6 years. But again, the banks may actually take the guarantee for 6 years and have a longer term product as part of that. So the state guarantees maybe up to 6 years, and then others the bank can take the risk for after that themselves. But it will. So those moratoriums, I think, are increasingly part of the packages. And again, even on the lower levels with MFI, we started with the six-month interest free, and it's now going to 1 year interest free as well. So 2-year moratorium, I think, is the tricky piece of that question.
Okay, thank you.
Adam, can I hear on this?
Further.
Yes, Jamie.
Adam, sorry. I agree with everything that Declan's saying. The one thing I would indicate to people, though, is a lot of what's being put out today is to deal with the crisis as it's known as of today, or what is foreseen over the next number of months. So things will unfold over the next number of months, which will give adaptability or changes to what's currently being announced. So what I would be urging people to do is to stay in touch with ISME and to inform ISME so that we can inform government as to what is unfolding. So, for example, if moratoriums are required on the large as opposed to case-by-case basis, we can then put that to government and say, look, this is what we're finding on the ground. So things are going to unfold over the next number of months, and particularly in October, November, December, the COVID crisis is likely to bite a little bit firmer for other industries more than the majority, and obviously supports will be made tailored to those industries, I would suspect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, well, that's good to know as well, because each industry, it's unique in so many ways. So that'd be very important to see that happen. Yeah. Now, the next question is more about VAT returns, which is a bit sort of left of field of what we've been talking about, but it's possibly pertinent to our accountants on the panel. So just general question, anyone had dealings with revenue on pre-2019/20 VAT arrears, and what was the outcome?
I can take this.
Thanks, Eilish.
Yes, is the answer. I have had dealings where you have an arrangement. There's an awful lot of background noise.
Yeah, I'm picking up on that. I've been trying to find who I need to mute, and I can't find the person. So, guys, just once again, if you could just check your microphone and make sure it's muted if you're not if you're not speaking. Thank you.
Yeah, no, just to say that where there is a pre-existing arrangement in place with revenue, and that's the defining factor, then they will warehouse and agree a very, I mean, it's cheaper than a bank loan at the moment at 3%. But if you just, and the other proviso is that you have to have filed everything on time, not paid it, but filed it. And that's an ongoing requirement. So they will warehouse your VAT and PAYE debts, and they will then do an arrangement at 3%, but you have to file on time.
Okay. Thanks, Eilish.
They will take pre-arranged debt from 2019 and warehouse that as well now.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So the last question in this particular section is what supports / special assistance are proposed for travel agents? And this is obviously one of the sectors that has been decimated. Travel agents whose turnover has been decimated and whose clients are being told by the government not to buy anything from us. The current EWSS is inadequate. Loans are useless. The grants provided to date are way too small. Is the government aware is already happening in this business and the likely virtual extinction of the entire Irish business? Wow, okay. I think that's one for you, Declan. Can people hear me? Actually, my internet's just gone a bit funny.
Yeah.
Can all hear? Thank you, thank you. Sorry, Declan, I think that's one for you. You're on mute, Declan.
Sorry, yes, I'm on mute now. So I think I don't have a direct answer on that. I mean, we haven't got a, I know the Department of Tourism has been looking at, and it goes back to that point that John mentioned, specific sports supports for specific sectors. So there is an additional 10 million for the tourism sector, probably principally focused on the domestic tourism project providers, and you know, they have a separate restart fund. I'm not actually, sorry, I hadn't seen the question in advance, aware as to whether it includes specifically the travel agents businesses. What I would say to them is, while EWSS is one which is mentioned, and maybe not enough, but I think if again, going back to the other areas in terms of the restart grant, the rates waivers, are there maybe in some cases some of the supports from the local enterprise offices are relevant. I know in some cases that they have worked with, they wouldn't be traditionally working with their local enterprise office, but they were able to help them with business continuity, vouchers and other supports. But I said I don't have detail as to whether Department of Transport has specific measures or a specific part of that. But again, I can follow up on that for you, Adam, and for the questioner. But I know it's very difficult at the moment, that sector. Yeah, I think. I mean, from a travel agent perspective, if there are some travel agents on here, actually, we have secured funding of our SkillNet Ireland specifically for the travel agent industry. But that's really from a training perspective. It's to help you get back started. But I think that's one area that's been very, very hard hit. And you know, some of those people are going to have to sort of do career conversion courses, which we also will be supplying because everyone has a skill, and so many of them are transferable. But the ones that are not, they can upskill through the ISME SkillNet, through our L&D service as well. And we're just one support. I think there are 70 other networks out there that offer this. But it's not the silver bullet, is it? So yeah, it'd be interesting to know what updates you'd have on that, Declan. I do want to acknowledge there are questions going into the chat. I will visit those at the end there, guys. I think some of them are being answered as this conversation progresses, but I will revisit them. So thanks for putting your questions into the chat. We move on to the next section now, which is the restart grant. We only have 4 questions here. The first one is, do companies who don't pay rates get a startup grant, e.g. a tech company in a hot desk space or working from home?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. That's the answer to that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, any addition there?
No.
Okay.
That's the case. Yeah.
That's the case. Yeah. In what period?
Yeah, we have no. If they're in a hot desk, we had additional support yesterday, which was announced for those hubs and for those spaces. So obviously to try and make sure that they can continue, and they provide those supports. So it's not a direct support to the individual, but it is support to those who are providing. It's to the smaller hubs, etc., around the country, maybe that have been struggling because of having to put in additional space and additional PPE, etc., and also paying managers when the place is half empty. But they're really important now for people, for not just a workspace, but also for having somewhere that's more like a business environment. So
Okay.
that is available. And then the working from home. Some people who have been working from home may have been on other supports, but there is the new support which is coming through the Department of the Enterprise Start support. I think they have an initial 12 million for that, of €1,500. I said that's coming from the Department of Social Protection. So, yeah, okay. Hopefully that's Adam. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Declan. In what period is the 30% decline in turnover worked out for you to be considered for the Restart grant?
Okay, so the Restart grant is up to the end of June, as far as I aware. Now, I don't have the detail is on our website, so it's up to that period, to the end of June. So we're not looking forward. We're looking at how you were impacted in the past, and it's about getting you up and running. And that's again, it's in the frequently asked questions on the website.
Okay, great, thank you. Does the €100,000 turnover per employee apply to 2019 or the current year 2020?
It's what your turnover is now. So what your revenue is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
2020.
Great. Sorry, just find the questions again. Okay, I think this one's related to that. If your turnover per employee exceeds 100K, why are you excluded?
Maybe I can come in here if
Thanks, Eilish.
I think it's because you're not deemed to be an SME if you're paying those sort of wages.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's why it is, because there aren't very many SMEs paying employees over 100 grand.
Very good. Okay, thanks, Eilish. Thanks for clarifying that. We've just the next section and the final section actually for this is wage supports. And the first question has two scenarios. The question is, can company directors who are on the payroll avail of EWSS? So there are two cases attached to that question. We are a small business with only myself and my wife as proprietary directors. We are in the outbound travel sector and our monthly turnover is down 90% since March. We do not expect to see any recovery until Q2 2021. We are dependent on the TWSS, and now we see that EWSS will only apply to proprietary directors who employ other staff. Why is this, and how can we lobby to have this changed?
Sorry, Adam.
Did I cut out there?
No.
No, I think that was me, was it?
Was it?
Yeah.
I think so, Declan. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as you know, there have been initially proprietary directors were excluded, and they have now been included again, which was Minister Donoghue had announced that since the July stimulus. But certainly on that piece, I don't have the detail on that, and sorry, I hadn't seen the question in advance, but we can certainly raise that with the Department of Finance. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's proprietary directors who don't have employees. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that'd be good to see what the outcome is. And in fact, I know a lot of your supports, Declan, are actually all your supports are on your website. We will provide the Department of Business Enterprise website and their support page after this. We'll get that out to all of the people attending here.
Okay.
In fact, many of those links are actually on our website now. So do have a look at our coronavirus and our advice pages. There are a lot of those links to the Department of Business. So just refer to those.
Adam, just coming back to the point where they ask if it can be lobbied upon. I don't like to use the word lobbied, but again, it's to give more information to government so the government can make an informed decision. So the exclusion of proprietary directors was reversed as a result of an informed decision being made. Yeah. So again, I would ask that person or any person that finds themselves in that position to come forward to ISME or any organisation so the government can make an informed decision.
Okay, yeah, super. And I think you've covered the second part of this question, which was around sort of they've spent the last 5 years redeveloping the business to be prepared for the new way the business will look. So we've got support to redevelop our website, take consultation, and have signed new business accounts, which will be lucrative once business rebounds. But without EWSS support for the coming months, it jeopardizes our whole business. But I think you've just covered that off there. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and I think they should also look at the EWS is one part of it. There are other parts. I mean, if there's a good business plan there, it's to look at the other range of measures and supports which can be built into that business plan now. And then if there is additional support that's needed, we'd be happy to look at that as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks,
thank you. Yeah, super. Thanks, Declan. Second question is that if an employee's hours of work are reduced to 3 days per week and they are registered on the EWSS, can they claim benefit for the other 2 days?
So it's, again, as I said, I'd have to defer to colleagues in the Department of Finance. What I would say is for some businesses, they may be more attractive, or maybe more worthwhile to look at the short-term work scheme, which is similar to what the person has articulated there in the question, that you work for 3 days and then can claim benefit for the other 2. So there is an existing scheme for that, and actually looking at revising that as well in the context of having a long-term EWSS. I mean, this is the type of schemes that are in place in other countries. So it is something which there is an existing scheme which seems to fit that bill, which is the short-term work scheme. And again, that's on the Department of Social Protection's website. But again, we can follow up on that question as well.
And just to follow on to that, there is an override. Oh, sorry, Jamie. There is an overriding max that you can claim in a week, or that you can earn in a week of 1462. So I expect that 3/5 of that would be a maximum that you could have been earning before you could claim anything in terms of the extra 2 days.
That makes sense. Yeah. Sorry, Jamie, you didn't say something.
The guidance on the EWSS, which is the new scheme, is going to be launched in September, clearly states that if you fall within the social welfare measures for part of the week, you do qualify.
Okay.
Yeah. So part qualification for both schemes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's good clarity there. I suppose related to this, obviously, can you opt in and out of COVID wages subsidy scheme as needed?
Again, my understanding is that that is the case. Each period, let it be a week or, well, more specifically a month, the owners of the business or the directors of the business are to review the turnover for each particular month to ensure the qualification. And my understanding is that if you feel you don't qualify, you can come off, and when you feel you do qualify, you go back on. And again, you just need to be able to justify why you've come back on.
Okay, yeah, and it sort of ties in with the next question, which is how can employers assess eligibility on a month-by-month basis and stop claiming the EWSS if they are no longer eligible based on the previous month? If they find they reach the criteria again a month after signing off the scheme, can they rejoin on a month-by-month? But I think you've covered that, guys. Also,
it's to be able, as Jamie said, you have to reasonably show a drop of turnover of 30%, but it's running for the last 6 months of 2020, and it's in comparison to the last 6 months of 2019.
Okay, so there's your comparison. Yeah, point.
There is a complication that each month from September onwards, you're supposed to assess month by month. I take the point that how do you do so? But again, it's the same difficulty that we would have had when the initial scheme was launched, because none of us had any crystal balls to predict. So again, if you're true and honest on the scheme, we're led to believe that there are minimum, if any, consequences. So when you feel that you don't qualify for the scheme, you sign off.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, I think as a general point, I mean, there's nearly 70,000 businesses, employers who've registered, and probably only 50,000 now who might be currently claiming. And then, with the inclusion of other measures such as seasonal workers, etc. So employers may come on and off depending on their circumstances. Thanks, Alan.
Okay, thanks, Declan. Now, this next question is quite a long one. but it's a very good question. So I'm going to read through it, and it might need a recap, but we are a small business with a total of 3 employees, 2 full-time, 1 part-time, creating software solutions for remote learning. Our main client investor is based in China and was due to pay us in January 2020. This client has been affected by COVID crisis and has not paid us so far, but may eventually do so. We have been in business a year based on funding sourced from China, have never received a cent in state funding, have paid all our taxes. We ran our January payroll as normal, it's a monthly payroll, but were not in a position to run February's payroll until we received the remittance expected from China. We plan to run the payroll with back pay on receipt of funds. On learning of the TWSS, we ran a weekly payroll. We ran a weekly payroll on April the 12th, as this was all we were financially able to do. We applied through this payroll run for the scheme. We continue to work on development and with prospective new clients, and are confident that we have a viable business once this crisis passes. Our only option if we do not receive TWSS aid would be to cease trading and for our employees to apply for social welfare. We are currently living on our savings and personal borrowing. This is obviously not a good solution for us and is not at all in line with the aspirations of revenue and the state to protect small businesses from such an outcome. We understand that the scheme is available to staff who were not paid in February as per section 4.6 of the revised guidelines for the scheme published on the Revenue website on the 21st of April. We also understand that Revenue committed to taking a pragmatic approach to all applications. We are now at a point where we cannot continue to operate, although we are in a growth industry, as we have not been given access to support given to very many employers in Ireland. Our question is, should we shut up shop and go on to live unemployed register, or is the state prepared to take a truly pragmatic, proactive approach to protecting small businesses? Bit of a mouthful, that one, but quite a story.
It's quite a story, and I'm sure it's not unusual for many other businesses. And look, I'd be happy to follow up with the business afterwards, rather than getting into detail. I'm not sure who they, as a software business, obviously trading internationally, doing lots of good stuff. They don't mention in terms of who they're working with. Is there something that we can support them through the local enterprise office if they're under 10, or through Enterprise Ireland? I see that the immediate issue is the TWSS. I just wonder in terms of the extent of engagement with Revenue. But look, it's a very specific case, Adam, and I'm certainly happy to, if we have contact details, if you want to email me afterwards, I'll put them in touch with, maybe with some or talk to them directly on it.
Yeah, I think it comes back to liquidity, doesn't it? And I think that's a major issue for many. I think grants are great and what have you, and I think SMEs are debt averse. They don't want to take on more debt. So that's a very interesting case study to see what. It's a shame they don't say which sector they're in. I don't think. I mean, software solutions. Oh, for remote learning.
I would have thought that should be. It's a good opportunity area.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Yeah. There's a lot of
very bankable, but look, there can be issues with getting, like the issue in terms of getting to markets is increasingly difficult as well, because sometimes being able to travel, etc., and all of that. So we all underestimate the difficulties of selling now and winning new customers, which is proving very difficult. So even though it's a remote learning solution, so look, I'm sure they're in the best. So be happy to follow up and see who they're working with and see if there's more we can help them with. That's a good question.
It's a good question, and if the person who asked that question is online, if they want to get in touch with me, it may be that given that you're in remote learning, it may be that you've emailed me already. But but if you want to pick that up with me, it's adam@isme.ie. Very easy email. So if you are on this call today, just give me a shout and we'll see how we can help you navigate through that current situation. But it does lead on to our advice page. Sorry, Jamie, go on.
Can I just come in? Just specific to that case, I see the date of the April the 12th, which again, the inclusion on the payroll for January and February, that was one of the things that was brought to government's attention.
Yeah.
There was a change in the wage subsidy scheme, which permitted anyone who ran the payroll up to the 1st of April to be included. And unfortunately, this particular company fell foul again. So again, it comes back to advice to inform us of the decision you're in, and therefore bringing these to government's attention. But what I would say specifically to this case is if it's a viable business, the local enterprise office would offer grant support to support them in developing their product. The Microfinance Ireland is also open to them as well. So there are funding mechanisms available to them if they believe that their business is viable. So the answer I would give to them specifically is if they believe their business is viable, there are solutions there to get them through the crisis so that they can benefit from a viable business in the future.
Yeah, and thanks, Jamie. And the other point is, I think, I mean, from what I've been hearing from businesses, that Revenue have the account managers on the EWSS or TWSS have been, in general, quite responsive. So I don't know if Eilish has experience of that. So that where you're engaging on eligibility, etc., you know, that they have generally been helpful. I don't know if that's a shared experience, but
through all the correspondence has to be through Ross My Inquiries. It's not possible to get them any other way, but that's.
But they do. But they are responding to those with named individuals, as I understand it, who are giving good rationale as to decisions being made, which is important. Yeah. Thanks, Alan.
Excellent. Thanks. And I just, whilst you were talking there, I was just going through the chat room questions there. Eilish, thank you very much for answering many of those whilst I've been facilitating here, and people in the panel have been answering other questions. So that's great. We're actually just down to our last question here. When or will the government reintroduce redundancy supports for employers? You're on mute there, Declan, sorry.
So just say I don't have a timeline on that, but our decision obviously be a decision for government, but it's something that's been kept under review, I'd say, Adam.
Okay, good. Well, that's the last of our questions, guys. If you have any sort of last questions that you want answering, sorry if we've missed any in the chat room there. It's been juggling sort of the questions, the meeting, and the chat room as well has been quite challenging. But if there's anything there that you want to ask, please do so. We have recorded this. We will send you a recording of it. You can recap. If there are any other questions that you have, do feel free to contact the team at ISME, but also have a look at our website. We've opened up many of the supports on there that used to be for our members only have been opened up to everybody, because this is about Ireland Inc. This is about Ireland recovering. So we're supporting everyone that we possibly can at the moment. But do use us as a support and a point of contact for advice. We're constantly changing it on a daily basis. We will provide the links to Declan's supports that he mentioned in the Department of Business as well. But as I say, they are on our website. Also, they exist there already. So any more questions coming into the chat room there? I can't see any new. Anyone got anything else to ask? Otherwise, we'll wrap up.
Adam, I wonder, could I ask one question, please, just for
yes, Seamus.
The 12-month interest-free piece on the microfinance loan. Currently, there's a 6-month holiday on that, and then you pay the 36. You pay over 30 months. So it's a 3-year loan. Does that mean for people who apply now that they pay over 24 months, or is it interest-free in that term for the first 12 months and you pay interest for the following 24 months, but you pay after the first 6 months holidays? Is that the way it's going to operate?
So essentially, I mean, your loan term is your loan term as you agree, but for the first 12 months, there's no interest charge. Essentially, Seamus, is the net effect for you as a business. So at the moment, it's 6 months, and that would be extended into 12 months. So,
but did that mean 12-month holiday with no repayments, or just 6 months holiday with no repayments?
So it is.
6 currently.
It's 6 currently. You commence repayments after 6 months, yes, but you don't pay interest. You have no interest. It's 0 interest for the first year.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So that's the extension on it. So no interest.
Thanks, Declan.
Okay. Thanks, Seamus.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Seamus. Good question. Anybody else just want to unmute before we close this up? Okay, just one there's a couple coming onto the chat there. From Nuala, how can an entertaining event get grants? I think that's an entertainment. They're obviously in the entertainment and hospitality industry. How can they get grants? I think the same as anybody else. Is that right?
And you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So there is a the July stimulus did have specific fund for the event sector. I'm not sure it's been launched yet, but there is a measure for the supports for the events industry. As I understand it, I just haven't seen the detail of that launched yet.
Okay, thanks, Declan. That's good to know that there's industry sector specific stuff there.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of work just on the events industry because it's something we're working, and indeed many of your members are in that sector, trying to get models of good practice. And you'll probably have heard of some of the events that are happening in terms of drive-in and small events. So part of that is about building public confidence to get that sector back up and running, both the business-to-business side of the event sector and exhibition sector and trade fairs, but also the public participation, which is more difficult. It's all caught up with the public health guidance at the moment and spreads. So just to say that businesses are playing an important role in that in terms of building confidence with the public and with public health officials. So I know that's one of those sectors which is being particularly badly affected, but we'd hope to have some progress on that over the coming weeks. Thanks, Adam.
Great, thanks, Declan. Okay, well, I think that there's some good feedback coming in here, sort of saying well done. So thank you. A big thanks to our panel this morning, Eilish, Jamie, and to you, Declan. Thank you for giving up some of your holiday there for us, but your insight and knowledge has been truly valuable. Thank you, guys. We will send out this recording. We'll send out the links to the supports as well, but do keep any questions coming into us. That's why we're here. So it's great to see so many of you on this platform this morning. We hope you learned something. And as I say, if you've got further questions, let us know. But
could I just say one final thing, please? That apart from, I know the focus is on COVID supports at the moment, but the LEOs have a very, very useful industry-specific tool that if you go to SME tool, it will actually, you put in what category you're in and what industry you're in. And there are industry supports which were already here before the COVID supports that can be very relevant and useful. So I suppose it's just to remind people, it's not all about simply the COVID supports. And the other thing to say is, as always, the ISME website is regularly updated and with the latest links. So if you check in daily, you'll always find something useful. Thanks,
Eilish. Very good. Yeah. I suppose from a learning perspective, upskilling, transformation, you have a look at my learning page. That's also all about morale, support, confidence. Those are the programs we're running, and much of them are free at the moment. So do have a look at those, see what piques your interest. So thanks once again to everyone. You've all been very welcome. Hope you learned something today. And we will be running these Q&A sessions in whether it's like the new supports or Q&A session with our HR advisor as well from an employment perspective. We're running these for the remainder of the year. So again, do keep a lookout for those. So you're all very welcome. Thanks very much. Enjoy the remainder of the week. It's nearly over, and we hope to catch up with you all again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adam. Take
Cheers,
care.
guys.
Thanks,
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.